When Robert turned 70, he moved into a small brick bungalow on the edge of town. His friends called it downsizing. He called it finally having a place where nobody leaves the lights on but me. For most of his adult life, Robert had lived with someone. First his parents, then roommates, then his wife, then his grown children who lingered longer than planned. The house had always been full of voices, footsteps, laundry piles, and competing schedules. Now, after his divorce, and the kids scattering to their own corners of the country, it was just him. At first, the silence was jarring. He'd walk into the living room and feel the absence like a physical thing. But as the weeks turned into months, Robert began to notice something unexpected. Living alone came with a strange, liberating joy. 1. Total control over the environment. The first thing he discovered was the freedom to arrange the house exactly how he wanted. He didn't have to negotiate over wall colors or argue about whether the TV belonged in the living room or bedroom. He put his reading chair under the best window, kept the kitchen counters clear, and arranged his tools in the garage in a way that made perfect sense, to him anyway. The thermostat stayed exactly where he set it. The radio played only the music he liked. And when he wanted silence, he got silence. 2. Eating exactly what he wanted, when he wanted. For years, meals had been about compromise. His wife had preferred lighter fare, his kids had gone through picky phases, and there had always been a shared clock dictating dinner time. Now, Robert could eat pancakes for dinner or have a bowl of chili at 10 in the morning if he wanted. He learned to cook single portions, tried out recipes no one else had ever liked, and sometimes skipped dinner altogether without a single raised eyebrow. Number 3. A new relationship with time. Living alone, Robert realized meant his schedule belonged entirely to him. If he wanted to stay up until midnight reading, he could. If he wanted to wake at dawn for a long walk, there was no one to disturb. There were no negotiations over weekend plans or debates about when to run errands. Time became his own quiet canvas, and he painted each day differently. 4. Rediscovering old hobbies. Without the constant hum of other people's needs, Robert found himself picking up hobbies he'd abandoned decades ago. He began sketching again, something he hadn't done since college. He joined a woodworking group at the community center. The solitude gave him long, uninterrupted stretches of focus. There was no one to complain about sawdust in the garage or stacks of sketchbooks on the table. 5. Learning self-reliance. Again, Robert had always considered himself capable, but living alone sharpened those skills. If something broke, he either fixed it or found someone who could. He handled bills, appointments, home maintenance, all without leaning on anyone else's schedule. It wasn't about pride, it was about knowing he could manage. That quiet confidence seeped into other areas of life, making him more willing to try new things. 6. A cleaner, simpler home. One of the most surprising benefits was how easy it was to keep the place clean. With only one person making dishes, laundry, and clutter, the house stayed in order with minimal effort. He didn't have to clean around anyone else's belongings or find storage for things he didn't use. The simplicity made the house feel lighter, almost like it breathed easier without the weight of too much stuff. 7. Space for reflection. Solitude, Robert discovered, was fertile ground for thinking. Without the distraction of constant conversation, his mind wandered freely. He thought about his past, not with regret, but with curiosity. He considered what he wanted for the years ahead. Sometimes he sat on the back porch at sunset, just watching the light change, letting his thoughts drift like leaves in a stream. Those quiet moments became some of the richest of his life. 8. Freedom to socialize on his terms. Living alone didn't mean being lonely. In fact, Robert found his social life became more intentional. He met friends for lunch, invited neighbors over for coffee, or attended community events when he felt like it. And when he wanted space, he had it. He could end a social day without coming home to more interaction, letting him recharge fully. 9. A stronger sense of identity. Perhaps the most profound benefit was realizing who he was outside of roles: husband, father, housemate. Living alone stripped away those constant mirrors. He had to define himself without reference to others' needs or expectations. It wasn't always comfortable. Some evenings, the quiet felt heavy. But over time, he came to see himself more clearly, a man who valued creativity, order, curiosity, and independence. One evening, about a year into his new life, Robert's son called. "How's the quiet house treating you, Dad?" he asked, half joking. Robert looked around at his small, tidy living room, the open sketchbook on the coffee table, the half-finished mug of tea beside it. "Better than I ever expected," he said. "It's not lonely?" "Sometimes," Robert admitted, "but it's a good kind of lonely. The kind that makes you appreciate the people you see and the time you spend with yourself." After the call, he sat back in his chair, listening to the low hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Outside, the wind moved softly through the trees. For the first time in a long time, he realized he didn't feel the need to fill the quiet. It was enough to live in it.